A ball of fire pierces the atmosphere of Mars, plummeting towards the surface at 13,200 miles per hour. This fireball across the horizon marks the end of a 301 million-mile journey for NASA's InSight and the beginning of a groundbreaking mission. For 5 decades, NASA probes have explored the exterior of the Martian landscape and atmosphere. But now, for the first time, the InSight lander will go deeper than ever before inside the ancient mysteries of the Red Planet. What's inside Mars? And how can the Red Planet help us better understand our own?
Go Atlas. Go InSight.
This is the Atlas V.
4, 3.
On May 5th, 2018, it became the first rocket to launch an interplanetary mission from the west coast of the United States. Cruising through space for 205 days, InSight will fly almost halfway around the Sun and eventually intersect with its final destination, Mars. The fourth planet from the Sun, Mars is the second smallest in the solar system. It's a rocky planet like Earth, but much of what's inside is still a mystery. To give us a window into Mars's deep interior, NASA's InSight lander will check the planet's vital signs for clues. Unlike previous Mars missions, this probe will stay in one place for the duration of its mission. First, it will check its pulse. Its sensitive seismometer will gauge vibrations from meteor impacts or Marsquakes caused by shifting rocks. Listening to these shakes and quakes will make it possible for us to determine the depth and composition of its crust, mantle, and core. Next, InSight will check the planet's temperature. Its heat probe will burrow deep underground up to a depth of 16 feet beneath the Martian surface. This groundbreaking device will measure the planet's interior temperatures and track how they fluctuate throughout the year. To complete its checkup, InSight will test the reflexes of Mars by measuring small changes in a radio signal from Earth. This will show us how much the planet wobbles in its rotation, which can give us clues about its core composition. If Mars has a liquid core, its rotation will be more wobbly. And if its core is more solid, we'll see less wobbling. When studied together, these vital signs will give us valuable insight into rocky planets, as well as improve our understanding of how they form. It's exciting to consider the future possibilities of human habitation on Mars. But as we look forward, we must also make sure to look backwards to learn from our solar system's ancient past. Who knows what secrets the universe might reveal?
Hello and welcome to this week's auction update. We give you a wrap on what happened over the weekend and what was a relatively quiet weekend because that powerhouse Melbourne market took the weekend off. Yet in Brisbane, we saw a new record set. We'll give you all the details in just a moment when Geoff White joins me. Back in a minute. Hello once again to Geoff White from CoreLogic. G'day, Geoff. How you doing?
G'day, Kevin. How you going?
Good, my friend. We'll get to that Brisbane record in just a moment, but let's firstly bring up the preliminary results from the weekend. And as you predicted on Friday, a bit of a slower time in Melbourne, but didn't seem to impact the success rates too much, Geoff.
No, that's right, Kevin. It can either be one thing or the other, to be quite honest, when the numbers are down. But in the Melbourne market on the weekend, 215 auctions have been held and a clearance rate of 53.5. So very consistent with what it's been in the last few weeks. So we've had long weekends in both in Melbourne, Canberra, Tasmania, and also Adelaide. So the numbers are down overall. Yeah.
Interesting, and I've just noticed this now, Geoff. I don't think I've ever seen the number of uncleared auctions in Sydney equaling the total number of auctions that were conducted in Melbourne. It just highlights, how many agents took a break over the weekend in Melbourne.
Yes, that's right, exactly. And as we've said, I think in the previous video, it can sometimes be a good time to auction because you've got more of the market to yourself. But nevertheless, that's the history too. So we've always been down on the long weekend in Melbourne. So
indeed. Brisbane market, 116 auctions, and we'll get to that auction that was absolutely spectacular under the hammer over the weekend. But 31.3% out of Brisbane, Geoff?
Yes, that's right. Look, it hasn't been, out of the ordinary. I think that's about where it's been sitting with 116 auctions. I think the good one has been Sydney as well. Still 58.2% with 702 auctions. So, the market seems to be holding in terms of auctions in Sydney. Adelaide, 55.3. That albeit long weekend there. See the reverse can apply, with long weekends. Melbourne held up and so did Adelaide with 67 auctions only. But then you go to Canberra where there was a holiday as well and 27.8%, which is well down, but only 44 auctions. And of course, Perth, a fairly stable result with 27.3 from 49 auctions, Kevin.
Indeed. Well, let's go to the breakdown of houses and units. Anything to learn from that one, Geoff?
I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary. So overall, we see houses at just over 50% and units about 55.4. So that's overall. So you can see the units are clearing more than the houses. Melbourne's almost a split with 0.1 between the houses and units, and Sydney certainly the units are up at to 60%, 60.2, and houses 57.2. So a little bit of a variance between the cities, but nothing out of the ordinary there, Kevin.
Okay, we'll have a look at the Sydney regional results and standouts for you, Geoff.
Clearly North Sydney, Hornsby there again. I think we've been saying that on and off. 70.7 with 132 auctions. So you'd have to say that's looking pretty strong there. And also the inner west at 69.8, albeit only 59 auctions, but good clearance rate. But a few in the 60s there. Eastern suburbs, 64.6 from 98 auctions, which was also a good result. The other end of the scale, obviously, the southwest with 20% and Sutherland with 36, but lower numbers of auctions in those areas there, Kevin.
It'd be interesting to know if they're doing anything different in those suburbs that are holding up, or those regions that are holding up in the 70s, Geoff. Maybe it's just the style of housing or the popularity of that area.
Yeah, look, I think as history repeats itself, even in slower markets, the inner areas, the ones that have really stood the test of time are obviously the ones that do shine, even in a lower market. And of course, yes, as you say, it's the type and style and what's being offered at auction, and perhaps what some of those were maybe auctioned a year or two ago, perhaps aren't being auctioned now. So that's also helping the clearance rate stay up in those areas. Yeah,
well, Top Sydney sale falls into that category, doesn't it? It's in Waverton, and that's 60 Euroka Street, sold for $6,150,000 by the agency. Michael Rava selling this one for that figure just over $6 million. Geoff?
Yes, a good result and well done to Michael. This home is really split over three levels, I guess you'd say. And there's dining and accommodation on the entry level, level 1 bedroom. There's also another living room and the 3 other bedrooms on the top floor. It's a particularly good property and well located, as we know, and well presented too. It's been architecturally designed. It's award winning and has everything that you'd really want in terms of modern conveniences. And Michael went to great lengths on his website to highlight the locations to schools and private and pre and childcare and all of those sorts of things. And when you think about it, in amongst it all. So what a terrific location. So again, well done, Michael.
Yeah, it is about location. Highlights the point we made earlier. Let's move to Melbourne now. Sub-regions there, inner holding up quite well. A couple of regions in the 60s, but we can't draw too much from this because of the low numbers, Geoff.
Low numbers, but it's fairly consistent with what we've been experiencing over the last couple of weeks. I think the northwest certainly picked up a bit there at 51.5 with 36 auctions. So that was the highest sub-region in terms of auctions. But yes, inner south at 62.5, but again, only 21 auctions there, Kevin. But, put a ring around that 50, early 50s. Some are pushing into the 60s, like the inner area, 65% from 25 auctions. So a pretty stable result in Melbourne, albeit the numbers were down. Top
sale in Melbourne was in Elwood, 6 Vortier Street. Yeah, 2,555,000 Chisholm and Gammon. And Carolyn and Torsten selling this one. 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 4-car. Yeah,
Vortier Street is a really top location in Elwood. A prime street runs down to Ormond Esplanade. This particular home is they've got a lot of Californian bungalow or Californian style, which is what everyone wants. The accommodation is 4-bed, 1 bath. You can get about 4 cars off the street. It's got the pool at the back. Obviously, the potential to renovate or do something else with the site. And a particularly good site in terms of Elwood standards as well. But a classic 1920s style house and very much in demand in the beach areas of Melbourne.
Yeah. Got a treat coming up for you in just a moment. We're going to give you the top sale out of Brisbane, which was set a record in Brisbane. We'll tell you more about that. We'll talk to the agent. Back in just a moment. Welcome back to the show. And Geoff, we always talk about the top sales in all the areas. Top sale out of Brisbane, 39 Griffith Street, New Farm. I'm going to let the agent tell the story on this one because I want to feature the video. It gives a great story about the property. Sold for almost $8 million. We'll come back. We'll also have a talk to the agent. But first of all, before we do, here's a look at the video.
My name is Nicholas Given from Ray White New Farm, and the Brisbane property market is on fire. I'm coming to you from the Howard Smith Wharves, and the hardest thing about living at 39 Griffith Street is do you catch one of these home, or do you catch one of these with my colleague Matt Lancashire? Just a short jet ski away from the Howard Smith Wharfs, this 873 square metre direct riverfront property is a must-see. Welcome to 39 Griffith Street at New Farm.
The ears of the listeners on deck, take a swing, sharper senses looking for a weakness in the system. Finally, it's you and me, here shaking like a tambourine. We in this finally, both sides of the cemetery. Attention people, y'all get ready. This is for everybody.
And here he is, the man himself, Matt Lancashire. G'day, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, KT. How you going?
Oh, brilliant, my friend. What a thrill. Congratulations. Another record.
No, thank you very much. So, yesterday we were able to knocked down under the hammer, and we believe it's the highest residential house price under the hammer sale record for Brisbane, which is amazing.
Well, it's not the first record for you, is it? You already hold a couple of others.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough. In 2015, broke the Brisbane house price record with a property, 33B Harbour Road, Balham. It's called. We sold that for 11.8 million, and then we backed it up 2 years after with 1 Leopard Street, which it still holds the current record for Brisbane, which was 18.48 million. So a couple of good sales there.
Mate, Nicholas Given was your partner on this one too. Good operator, Nicholas.
Absolute legend of a bloke, and also a fantastic real estate agent as well. So we teamed up on this property here. The owners had owned it since 1999. They paid 1.2 for it back then, and we're able to. We attracted over 100 inquiries. There were about 80 inspections. We had 8 registered bidders, and a sale price under the hammer for $7,750,000 yesterday at auction.
And where did the bidding start?
4 million. So we had a gentleman who was there at the property. He opened it up at 4 million, and we went in $500,000 rises quite quickly to 6.5, and then it slowed up to 7. And it was about a 30-minute negotiation to get it up to $7,750,000.
And the opening bidder, was he the successful purchaser?
No, he tapped out at about 6.5.
Okay.
So one of the bidders who was going toe to toe with that bidder was actually the eventual
buyer. And did they bid on them on their own, or did they have a buyer's agent working for them?
Well, great question. We had one buyer's agent there, Jordan Navybox from Cohen Handler, who was representing one of the purchasers. He did a fantastic job. His buyer, I believe, tapped out at 6.5. So the other buyer was at 6. He was at 6.5, and did a really good job of bidding. And buyers agents are becoming so important in the landscape of real estate. And we would do 4 or 5, maybe 6 deals a month. With a group of different buyers agents across Brisbane, but in this part of the market, it's having someone to represent you when it's such a big sale can work in an advantage. So. Yeah,
mate. Leading into our chat, we played the marketing video that you did. Interesting to see you on the jet ski there, my friend.
Yeah.
Is that something you're going to be doing more of?
Look, it's Look, we have been doing quite a bit of it. I released a property video last week where we had a helicopter chopper into the property at Pullenvale. This one here, obviously, the Griffith Street's so close to the Howard Smith Wharf, so we wanted to give a representation of how close it actually is to the action. So it was literally a 30-second jet ski ride from Howard Smith Wharf to the pontoon of this property, and it was pretty cool. Nick Given still a bit scarred from it. He was on the back of the jet ski, and we ended up in the Brisbane River, both of us in our suits, surrounded by bull sharks, no doubt. And
wow,
it was,
that would have been after you did the shot that we saw you in, because you looked to me as if you're on the jet ski on your own. Is that right?
Nick wouldn't get back on it, so yes, you are correct. And then secondly, the video, you might not be able to see, we had to darken it because we only had one shot at it, and I had to do that. I was drenched wet doing my introduction, so it's it was a bit of fun for that one.
Hey mate, congratulations. I'll let you get back to your well-deserved break there, and look forward to you breaking the only other record I think you don't have in Brisbane.
Yes, well, there's a few on the horizon this year. So we're talking to a couple of properties that I'll report to you in the next couple of weeks. That looks like has a very good chance of breaking the Brisbane house price record again.
Mate, congratulations. Fantastic.
Thanks, KT.
Keep up the good work. Hit the surf there, mate. It's looking spectacular.
I'm about to. Don't worry.
Good on you, buddy. Talk soon.
Cheers. See you, mate.
Yeah, great result there, Geoff, wasn't it?
Well, what a property, though. I mean, This is once in a lifetime. This is a dream come true. I think people probably lie awake at night dreaming about these sorts of properties, and what a one it is at 873 square metres with true river frontage there, world class property.
Yeah, I saw where the auctioneer actually did the auction on that landing that we would have seen there. With the river in the background. And why wouldn't you? I mean, a spectacular spot there, and the the owners have done extensive renovations on a number of properties in Brisbane. Certainly, this is a lovely property. But as we said there, Matt, very proud of that record, as you heard, and
Yes.
just relaxing there at the beach after a long weekend. I actually caught up with him on Sunday morning when we pre-recorded that. But yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
anyway, mate, a great result. Let's move to Adelaide and we'll have a look there. 21A North Esplanade, Glenelg North. Now, a bit of a story to this one, Geoff, isn't there? Because the video that we're going to roll here was a video that we featured 2 weeks ago when 21 was sold, and that achieved, I think, well over 2 million. This one sold for 1,815,000, but we think there's probably a reason for that, Geoff.
Yeah, this property, according to Jamie Brown, he was being offered under instruction from a mortgagee in possession,
Yep.
and it wasn't really finished. So it gives the buyer the opportunity to go in and put their own stamp of approval on it and do their own finishing off the renovation there. And yes, but very similar to the property next door in terms of floor plan, obviously, and on 580 square metres and offering, terrific accommodation. So a very, very good result, and it makes good reason why it didn't sell for the same as the other one, because that was finished.
Yeah, well, it set the value, didn't it? It sold 2 weeks ago for 2,390,000. So this one's selling at 1,815,000, giving the owners a bit of an indication as to what it's going to be worth when they do actually finish it off. So
that's right.
Yeah, very sad for the developer there, but I guess that's life, and we move on, Geoff, don't we?
Exactly right. But a good result in for that one, and well done, Jamie.
Yeah. I want to bring up the clearance rate rolling averages again, which tell, another continuing great story as those auction rates do actually continue to pick up, Geoff.
Yes, that's right. And this is really good to see the trend in terms of the auction numbers and the clearance rates, more like. And that dip in the coming out of 2018 into early this year, you can see that tail that's going up is growing, and that indicates that the clearance rates have been higher and consistently higher than what they were late last year. So that's the promising sign in terms of the auction market, and you can see that the trend has certainly changed. It's a clear U-turn in terms of the trend, which is positive for those that are contemplating auctioning their property at the moment.
Yeah, there's another point too, Geoff, and that is that over the last decade or so, and of course these figures do go back a decade, auctions back in 2009 probably not as popular as they are now in some of the cap cities like Brisbane, even Adelaide and Perth. And as we're seeing more auctions come through and agents get more skilled at how to do them, we're going to see those clearance rates have a lot more meaning.
Yeah, that's right. Auctions have been predominantly
Sydney and Melbourne
prevalent in Sydney and Melbourne because
right.
of the way the market's been going. So what a great opportunity for some of those other cities to capitalise on the auction method of marketing. And the transparency that auctions provides is great for not only vendors but also buyers. So
that's what we're
seeing. And that's certainly we're seeing the trend starting to pick up, certainly in Brisbane and to some extent in the other capitals as well. So
as always. Hey Geoff, great talking to you, my friend. Look forward to catching up on Friday. We'll have a look. Any indication yet as to what it's going to be like next weekend? Will there be a bit of a backlog, do you think, coming out of Melbourne?
I think it'll be back to where it was, probably more like last week at this stage. So it just takes a bit of a break this week, and then back to more normal over the course of next week. And then we've got the run up to Easter. So busy time. Yeah.
What happens over Easter traditionally, Geoff?
Look, you won't find any auctions really the weekend of Easter. Easter Sunday it'd almost be you'd be hung out to dry if you auctioned anything on Easter Sunday, I think. So
that's right.
So look, I think you'll find it'll virtually stop to a halt. Agents will tend to open properties and that sort of thing on the Saturdays, but not so much do the auctions over the Saturday-Sunday period. So numbers will be down then, but we'll have a busy time up to that period.
Well, as always, we will certainly be on deck to bring whatever excitement there is to you over that weekend and all the other weekends. Hey, Geoff White from CoreLogic, thank you for your time, your insight, and look forward to talking to you again on Friday, my friend.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks very much.
First time out, you know, you got to come out swinging. We had a goal. I mean, She's Gonna Have It did not happen right after NY Film School. You know, so all the time after graduating film school, I was working towards my first feature. People are not gonna come to New York City because Spike Lee says anything. I mean, New York City is the advertisement, you know, of its own. I've done several films about Brooklyn, where Brooklyn is the backdrop. Do the Right Thing, Crooklyn, Clockers, and they're just stories that take place here. I don't know what it is, but there's something about Brooklyn. It's the people, the diversity, the culture, the people that make up this great borough. I mean, I grew up here, you know, developed person who I am, who I've become, and so therefore, that has been the subject of a lot of my films. The one thing I will say, that if you do come to New York City, you gotta walk over the Brooklyn Bridge. That's a requirement. It's the greatest bridge that's been built.
London Bridge is small potatoes compared to the Brooklyn Bridge. If you can, before you leave this planet, you must come here to visit.
You know, I was never gonna move to Hollywood, to LA. Scorsese's here, Woody Allen's here. They didn't move. People gotta discover for themselves. I mean, discover for yourself. Discover for yourself.